Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I have Tommy here with us today, and we are going to be talking about how he reinvented his career and built wealth through investing. Tommy, I'm excited to talk with you today, man. I know we have a lot to talk about. So why don't you just share to the people, your background, how you got here, and just your story.
Yeah, no problem. My name is Tommy D. Last name's actually Dobzik. That's the one that my dad gave me when I was born, but it's a little tricky to say. So I shortened it up to Tommy D. And so you can find me on a lot of social media with that. So my backstory, I was born with most people say they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I was born with a golden hammer in my tool belt. My dad was a general contractor, and I watched him change his career and pivot a lot when I was a kid. Only to learn when I was like 14 or 15 years old that my dad's high school education was limited. He was dyslexic, and so he had no ability to read or write. And so I always wondered about that because he was just often struggling with jobs. But he was very mechanical, very good with his hands, and could figure things out pretty easily. And I recently learned that people with dyslexia usually make the best entrepreneurs because they live in a problem-solving world all the time, right? So, but yeah, my dad got me started, and I would say somewhere around my mid-20s, I had achieved high levels of success that most people my age didn't, and I didn't know what I was doing with it. And I pissed away over $20 million. And so a lot of it into bad real estate decisions. It was 2005, 2006 when I made the money. And so by 2007, 2008, nobody was keeping it. And so I went through that experience, and by the grace of God, ended up in the healthcare field, and I became a registered nurse. I spent 8 years in the ERs going across the country before COVID. I was a travel nurse. I was doing things in nursing and healthcare that a lot of people had never done before, and it was because I understood the autonomy behind being a registered nurse. So a lot of people forget that we had the American Affordability Healthcare Act, or as most people know it as Obamacare. Obamacare caused the entire healthcare industry to change. And one of the things I did was I became a super user. Obamacare made it where you could no longer do charting and documentation on paper. Everything had to go into a computer. And so I was one of the first nursing classes to graduate with the computer sciences. And we went into hospitals, and I was getting paid more than the doctors I was training. So I spent the first 4 years of my career teaching hospitals across the country how to use computer charting instead of paper charting. So we from there, COVID happened, whatever. But I started investing again, I think in like 2018. I started seeing things change here in Arizona. And I jumped into doing some real estate deals that I've always done land. I've always done commercial. So the first deal I got into was a 5 acre with a house that I split, and I turned a $300,000 investment into $2.7 million.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And so when COVID happened and they mandated shots, they mandated masks, I said, okay, adios. Took my leave of absence and went straight back into construction. Started getting and the nice thing was I had a database of doctors that I still talk to, and those guys love to invest in real estate. So we did since 2020, we've done 27 partner deals and made over $30 million.
That's a hell of a story. I will say, to be an ER nurse, right, and to have all the down pits and falls, and now you have this success. I'm curious though, like transitioning, right, from ER nurse. I know you've been in real estate, but like, what made the ticker to go back into full-time real estate investing?
The lockdown. When we went lockdown and the essential worker became the blue collar worker, I was like, oh, it's like a wake up call, like ding dong, it was my, it was my invitation back to the ball. I lost $20 million in real estate in 2008, and in 2018 I seen things turning around, and I was paying attention to it. So when 2020 came around, March, I remember it like it was yesterday. In January of 2020, I decided at that point I would be a general contractor by the end of the year. And in December 2020, I started BSN Construction and had a $1.5 million investor give me money to build 3 houses, 3 custom homes. And we built those 3 custom homes and turned them into the first $1 million homes to be sold in the town that they were built.
That's incredible. So, I'm curious because you and I were speaking offline before we started recording, and I'm just curious to know where all this passion and drive kind of stem from, right? I know you've been a student of Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? How did that book shape your mindset about wealth and building financial freedom that you have today?
Well, the nice thing was that I had a rich dad and I did have a poor dad. And what's crazy is even after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I went to college, got into college debt, and took on student loan debt so that I could survive. And so I invested in myself. I invested into my education. And I did it under the pretense that because I was going to work in difficult areas, my student loans would be forgiven. Unfortunately, that never happened, and that's okay. But I started the construction company, BSN Construction, because that's the last degree I earned with student loans was my Bachelor of Science of Nursing. So the name has morphed. The name has morphed out of BSN, meaning Bachelor of Science of Nursing, over to Better Start Now Construction. But that's kind of how that's kind of how entrepreneurs work. That's what Rich Dad Poor Dad's kind of about. Rich Dad was probably my first wealth building book that I ever read. I can tell you right now, I've read about 150 since then. But the premise is always, the foundation was always the rich dad, poor dad mentality, that working with others, helping others, growing with a team. That's the part that I missed when I lost my first 20 million, was working with multiple businesses, being diversified, having a landscape company, having a laundromat, having a back then it was a video store rental. If you didn't own a video store rental in town, you weren't nobody, man. Like, you had to have a shop that had a little bit of a selection of family movies, cartoons, and even the adult stuff in the back behind a curtain.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
That was how you knew you made it, was when you had the town video store for rent, So the rich dad mentality when I got into nursing was very much the same as well. Like, I knew a lot of rich doctors, their brain was one track focused, medicine, medicine, medicine. And with all the changes that was going on in healthcare, I started 2 industries in healthcare just because I wasn't from that world. One of the businesses that we started was actually what's called a scribe business. And doctors were having a difficult time going to a computer and entering their orders because everything had to be computer charted. So me and 2 other doctors came up with an idea of recruiting interns that are medical students to come in and act as a scribe. Back in the days of Rome and like Athens and stuff like that, your theologists, your smart people, walked around with groups of people and they took notes, and then he just referred to their notes for his books. And that's literally what a scribe was. They documented all the actions of that person. We invented that business, and it became a multi-million-dollar business that we contracted to over 250 hospitals across the country.
Wow.
That was my first one. So, and then the second one came by way of, I was transitioning through some things in nursing. Like I said, I was a travel nurse. I was out here in Arizona. I was going to school at ASU for my doctorate degree. I was working on my pediatric practitionership, and I went to Vegas, and I'm not a big drinker, not a big partier, but I like to support my friends when they do dumb shit like get married in Vegas, So I went out there with my girlfriend. She got hammered, and she's drunk, and I'm not a big fan of slushy women. So I was like, what do I do with her? My buddy's like, call this place. They'll come out and they'll put an IV in, and she'll be all set. And I'm like, let's try it. Next thing you know, I'm in Arizona, and I started the first IV hydration in-home therapy business in 28. It was in 2017 when I started that. And so now there's over, I think there's over 175 practitioners across the state.
Yeah,
and there's like 30 or 40 shops that you can go to and get IV treatment. Before I did it, you could only go to the hospital and do it. So, but I sold out of that business, got into stem cells. I was doing stem cell therapy for a while with a naturopathic doctor. But I learned that by working with the doctors, like in which Rich Dad Poor Dad is, his poor dad was a PhD professor, And so those people, they have a little bit of liquid income, and they tend to try and invest it in things that are safe and all that, because they know they're not going to teach forever. Right? They know they're not going to be doctors forever.
Tommy, I guess the real question is,
Well, their first plan is to pay off the student loans. When a doctor pays off his student loans, the next plan he's focused on is his retirement. They literally, their focus is how to get into the business so they can figure out how to get out. And that's really where I learned about exiting, the importance to
It's
building
vital
exit
to
strategy
success
into your
long term, right?
businesses.
I mean, Tommy, I guess the real question is, what haven't you done? So, I, yeah, yeah, I love that,
Um,
man.
Nothing. Like when I had a roofing company in Florida, I was a bullfighter. I went out and sold my services as a bullfighter
Genius.
so I could hang my banner on the rodeo gates when the bulls
That's
come
awesome,
busting out.
man.
So
Yeah.
I've done demolition derby. My hero growing up was
Evil
what's his
Knievel.
name?
Yeah, yeah.
Evil
Yeah. Oh,
Knievel.
yeah. Absolutely.
You ever seen
Legend.
Evil Knievel? Okay. He's my hero. He's my hero, not because he did dumb shit and almost killed himself. He's my
Mhm.
hero because he walked into Caesar's palace. He told the president, the owner of the hotel, that he was going to make a ramp
I've
out
heard
in
that
front of
story.
his
Yep.
hotel and jump the fountain with his motorcycle. And he had two choices. He could sell tickets or he could. That was it. He said, I'm doing it. I'm going to either do it
It
with
all
your
starts
help or
with
I'm
one
going to do it
person.
without you. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And Evil Knievel literally was that way in business. And so I've kind of emulated myself in that way that once I set my mind to do it, it's
How?
not about
Yeah.
when, it's about how. How am I going to build it? How am I going to do it? Because it's already done. In my brain, it's already done. So as soon
I
as
love
I'm
that,
done with
man.
the how, the
Speaking
when's
into
going to
existence,
happen
right?
immediately.
Well, let's talk
You
about
know,
that too. I mean, it sounds like with all the knowledge you possess, I mean, I know you're helping other people achieve success through Genesis Wealth, right? So let's talk about that. What strategies do you use to
34
guide your
partners. Yeah.
clients in building, a strong real estate portfolio and everything else that you would advise on?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
I'm going to blow your mind. It's the simplest thing in the world. Most people wouldn't even understand it. Um, every mentee mentor relationship I have starts with the
Interesting.
game Monopoly. I teach people how to play Monopoly because the game Monopoly teaches three things. It teaches you how to negotiate with people. It teaches you how to structure deals, and
Mm,
it teaches you how to manage money. And so if you don't have those three
yeah.
principles, I can't teach you shit in investing.
Hmm.
Like you can go, like for example, in sales, I tell people if you can't formulate a 10-second pitch, I don't care where you go. You can go to Brian Tracy conferences for the rest of your life. You can go read every single sales training book in the world. But if you don't know how to formulate a 10-second pitch, you are not going to ever be successful enough in sales to
Hmm.
support yourself and retire. Right? So in investing, if you can't play the simplest game in the world based on real estate and you don't know the fundamentals of that game, then you
Wow.
can't ever become a good real estate investor. Period. You're going to struggle. And then you're going to make yourself a hero when you make it out of a struggle, when reality is getting it through a struggle shouldn't make you a hero or anything. It should
Mm.
mean that you've learned, now never repeat. But there's so many people that go out there and
Never
repeat
learn
the
from it.
same problem over and over and over that they make themselves think that, oh, look, I'm
Mm.
so good at solving problems. No, you make your own problem, which makes you your own hero, which makes you a
Wow.
time waster.
I've never heard it breaking down like that, Tommy. I mean, Monopoly, right? I mean, playing that game, but that definitely really gives me a perspective, right, on showing who's committed, right? And it can just do something basic as playing Monopoly, right? So very cool, man.
Yep. And again, like getting people together to learn these things where actually I'm starting a mastermind.
No, put it out.
I
Yeah,
don't know if
let's
I
talk
can,
about it.
put that out there yet, but we've got a mastermind called Boardwalk Mastermind. A lot of people think of
Yeah.
Boardwalk like I just mentioned Monopoly, so that's the
Sure.
most
Mm.
coveted piece on the board, right? Like without Boardwalk, you basically can't win the game. Um, and so a little bit of the name is credited to that, but the name is mostly credited to the fact that a boardwalk is a elevated path to a greater destination, and it's built by experts for the entire world to use. And so the Boardwalk Mastermind is a mastermind where experts in our fields come together and we come up with not just like real estate deals, but like product development, software development, major big, uh, uh, investment style stuff that like the big products out there, Google
Mhm.
and Amazon are a good example. But all of those like all of those
Yeah.
big businesses started in a think tank with experts. And so I want the Boardwalk Mastermind to become a think tank for experts, but then also a place for those experts to have the vulnerability to gain understanding of how they can be better at being the experts they are, you know. And the premise behind that entire uh, organization is the coming together and working together. So one of the things that we do is we start out our we have 2 meetings a year, and what we do is we start out the meeting each year, the beginning of first meeting of the year, by picking our leader, our grand poobah, by doing basically competition style Monopoly playing, where you're playing with real money, and the jackpot's
No
thirty
kidding.
thousand dollars at the end. So 20 guys, we sit down, we play 20 guys against each other. You can even
Yeah.
partner up. Like if you know somebody's better at it than you, give them all your money and sit behind them and play with them. You know, the idea is to deal make and to negotiate and to really get into learning who each other are in a fun and safe environment while competing and energizing our brain with the hormones produced during success. A lot of people they technically learn better
Mm.
when they go through what's called cortisol dump.
Yeah.
You get, you make a mistake
Uh-huh.
and you learn, like touch a hot stove, ouchie.
Right.
Your body
Uh-huh.
creates a hormone called cortisol that makes you remember, right? Our body doesn't have that necessarily for anything successful except for serotonin. So really the only way to learn from winning is to experience the serotonin in a way that it makes it stick. And so that's why
Mhm.
it's so hard to learn from winning, is because it creates that
Yeah,
endorphin rush
exactly.
that makes us
Yeah,
forget
man,
what
that's
we
so
did to
true.
get there, you
Tommy, that's
know?
awesome, man. So let's
So,
talk about, too,
yep.
you're a member of 7 corporations, as you and I were discussing before, too, and 3 real estate firms. How do you leverage corporate structures in that sense? Contracts.
Uh, Contracts. Like
Hmm.
everything's based on relationships in business. And so, my real estate firms, like one of them, we're starting a fourth one. It's going to be an equity fund that's focused on
Oh,
doing land entitlements. And so right now we have an abundance of land that is available, but it's not ready for development. And so we're going to raise $100 million to buy over 1,000 acres of
wow.
land and do the work to make it ready for development. And what we're doing is we're creating the path of progress. Okay. And so how I'm able to do that is leveraging my construction company, my surveying company, my excavation company, and my civil engineering company. Okay. And so all four of those now provide me a contract that I put into my PPM for my uh, land holding company that's going to raise $100 million. And so because I've already got all the documentation, contracts, and negotiations are done, investors can now look at hard, solid
Mm,
numbers to decide, is this a good deal or
man,
not?
that is incredible. So how many companies do you have, Tommy?
Uh,
Wow,
Currently
that's a
on the
lot.
books, probably
Man,
35.
that's incredible.
So, but I manage and
Mhm.
run about 11 of them, directly 7 of them, but I have managers, I have
Mhm.
partners. Like I said, I have over 30 partners, that I do business with. A couple of my businesses are, I've started companies and then hired a CEO, CFO, COO, and I
Wow.
stepped down to just
So
director. Um,
you
and
have
it's
so many
because
businesses, right?
it
So I'm
worked out better
curious. I
that
mean,
way.
what type of systems and operations do you put in place to be able to manage that many businesses? Obviously, teams are important, right? It's the lifeline of your business, right?
Oh, totally.
Mhm.
You got to remember, when I was a registered nurse, I would work in busy hospitals, and one of the things that I felt I was really good at was prioritization and delegation. So that is key to survival in the healthcare industry. Prioritization and
Mhm.
delegation in the emergency room is the difference between life and death. You ever heard
Yes.
about a person dying out in the waiting room? I can tell you right now that they didn't have any prioritization and delegation in that ER
Mhm.
if people are dying in
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
waiting
I'm
room.
following you.
You know what I mean? So in running companies, I run a company much like I ran my ERs, in that every one of my companies is like a patient. Every one of my managers or partners is another nurse or another doctor, And so the way I handle my businesses now versus when I did before I got into nursing, is through how I deal with each individual business
Sure.
on its
Mhm.
own merit, on its own badge, you know. So um, and then I also I manage them just like I did back then. I've incorporated AI a lot into my business. As a matter of fact, I've been able to create 3
Wow.
virtual employees, that have been able to free up actual human beings to go
Yeah.
do stuff that's way more important. Um, and I've been able to create a program in AI that has given back to me somewhere between
60 and
60
80
and
hours
80
a
hours a
week.
week.
How is that possible? How
So
did you learn about that? What
I've been using
yeah.
AI for about 3 years, and you got to remember, I don't look like your average computer nerd, but I can build websites
Looks all
better than
deceiving,
some of the
huh?
website people out there selling them for 10
Yeah,
grand.
that's awesome, man.
So
Golly, so I mean,
yeah, right. Like, you, when I walked in the room, most of the time people were worried, was I the janitor or the
uh-huh.
doctor? But when I told them
Yep.
I was a nurse, they were like,
That's
huh?
the way to be though, right, Tommy?
So I'm
That's
used
the
to
way to
that. I'm
be.
used to it.
I'm curious too. I mean, again,
Right.
you've built so many process operations, AI, you've built so many teams within your companies. I'm interested in knowing, what do you look for when you're hiring somebody? What can people look for when they're trying to make a hiring vetting decision on people, right? Because
The last thing I do is
mm,
hire people. I don't hire people anymore. I be honest with you. I've gotten to a
I
point that
see.
if you're not my partner, we're not working together. I want you to have skin in the game. If you're getting a paycheck out of one of my companies,
Got
it's
it, got
because
it.
you're in the company now. So I don't, if I go and do a job, I'll get bids from people, but they get paid piecemeal. I never pay anybody by the hour anymore. I used to pay people by the hour, way back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And when I had my roofing company in my early 20s, it's where I learned it. Everybody I paid by the piece provided me with a better
Really?
product and better service than anything ever before. When they knew they were making a certain dollar amount for the day, they had a choice: do a good job and not have to come back tomorrow, or hurry up and get it done and then have to wait for my
Mm,
paycheck because I have to go back and do it again and again and again and again. So I hold people accountable. If you didn't do your job, you're not getting a paycheck. If I got to
right,
get somebody else to come in and do what you didn't do
right.
right, you're not going to get paid, period. So I no longer take people on. The vetting process for that is
Mhm.
really simple. Show me what you've done before and tell me what you can do now. And if you don't speak the right language, it's just like listening. Are you going to buy
No,
like tacos from
no,
somebody who can't speak Mexican? No,
because they're
no.
not authentic, right?
That's the last place you're going
Right.
to buy a taco.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right. Like, it's not going to happen. I used to have a saying that I could tell what kind of
Mm,
roofer you were based on how you climb the ladder. So plain and simple, that's kind of what you do. when you're in business and you, like, let's say you're an absentee business owner and you need to find managers that can run your business, the last thing you want to do is hire them. The last thing you want them to be is an employee. You want them to be a partner. Even if you're paying them by the hour, you have to make them feel like they own something. When I worked in hospitals, and I worked in quite a few because I was bouncing
Yep.
from hospital to hospital, I get them trained up, go to the next place. And so as a trainer in doing electronic medical records, I would have to sit through orientation for every hospital I worked at. So out of 40 orientations, the number one thing they all said was that every employee that they had, they expected what's called stewardship, ownership, right? A steward on a boat is the person that goes
Mm-hmm.
down with the boat even after it sinks. So like they're there to
Yep.
be the
Exactly.
steward. If you've ever been on a cruise, that's what a steward does. They're like, how can we serve you? How can we
Over deliver.
service you? This is our boat. You're our guest. We're here to help, blah, blah, blah. I think that's probably, to answer your question, one of the biggest things that you have to put into an
Wow.
employee
Right. So you want
is
them to buy in a
stewardship.
vision even bigger than yours sometimes, right? They have to believe in it, right? And I think that's so important because I 100% agree with you,
Yep.
right? If you buy someone by the hour, you're now telling them that's their worth and that's all they're worth, right? And I just think that it can cause a lot more problems long term. So that's a really interesting approach that you have, Tommy. I appreciate you sharing that, man. Tommy, I wish we had honestly another hour and a half though to talk because I know we could do it, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I want to give it back to you now, just to let people know, where can they find you, right? How can people work with you? And I'll let you take it from there.
So people can find me. Um, if you go on social media, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, I think I've got an X account. But anything like that, it's Blue Collar Million Dollar. Um, Blue Collar Million Dollar. I wrote two books recently. One of them is called The Blue Collar Revolution. Uh, the Blue Collar Revolution is a guide to AI for blue collar workers, people in the trades, HVAC, plumbing, electricians, framers, roofers. Like I give about 5 or 6 examples of how to use AI to make their lives easier. So check that out on Amazon. The other one is called Triage. uh, uh, Triage Code Blue Your Business. Triage Code Blue Your Business is a crisis prevention and crisis management book. I wrote it because after COVID, I started the company right after COVID. And the reason why I was able to accelerate was because I had a lot of businesses around me, support businesses, going out of business. And I started understanding why they were going out of business was
Mm-hmm.
because they had no crisis management plan. And in the emergency room, we have an algorithm. We call it triage. You come in, we determine how severe you are, and then we move you into the system, you know. And so that's how we handle, an overflow of people coming in the front door. We have, we're able to use critical thinking skills to sort through life and death situations. And in the business world, life and death is the life and death of your business. And so if you don't know how to take your company's vital signs, if you don't have a crisis management team, if you don't have some tools on how to even assess
Yeah.
your crisis, then you're going to go out of business. So I wrote the book Triage, Code Blue Your Business, and that was released on my birthday this year when I turned 50. So those are the places you can check me out. Um, uh, and I've got on my TikTok, that's where most of the stuff happens. I built houses on there. If you go way, way back into my TikTok account, you can actually go on there and watch
Wow.
when we built our first $1 million home. So you can book an appointment with me on my Stand store. Links are on all my bios for my Stand store. So if you get on my Stand store, you can join a podcast or you can join a webinar there. I have a 5-week course on there, and then
Wow.
I
You
also
heard
do
it here first,
one-on-one
ladies and
mentoring.
gentlemen. Tommy, thank you for your time, my friend. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I know the audience is going to gain nothing but value in this as well. So thank you again, Tommy. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Awesome. Well, take
Hey,
care,
Christian, I
everybody. And
appreciate
as
it.
always, we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.